break down the door. This is our son's apartment. The words hit like thunder. The pounding that followed shook the frame so hard the door hinges squealed. It was 8:07 a.m. on a quiet Sunday morning, and my parents had come to claim my home. I froze, barefoot in the hallway, coffee still warm in my trembling hand. Through the wood, I could hear my mother barking orders like a drill sergeant. "Go on, Harold. Hit it harder." She changed the locks again. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. And then came my father's voice, deep, furious, cracking with that same tone that used to silence me when I was a kid. "This is our son's apartment, Lena. You don't belong here." The crowbar slammed again. Thud. Plaster dust fell from the frame. For a moment, I just stared at the shaking door. Not because I was scared, but because I realized in a single heartbeat that they truly believed it. They thought I didn't belong in the home I paid for. My pulse steadied. I set the mug down, took a slow breath, and unlocked the door. When I pulled it open, the sunlight hit their faces like a spotlight on guilt. Mom froze mid-swing, crowbar still raised. Dad's face went from rage to disbelief. And Carter, my brother, stood behind them pretending to look concerned, when all he really wanted was to see me humiliated. But this time, I wasn't the one about to break. Because in my hands wasn't a weapon. It was a stack of papers, bank statements, lease documents, and one thick folder titled Property Transfer Agreement. My name was on every single page. I looked my mother in the eyes, calm, almost detached, and said, "You really should have checked the name on the deed before you tried to break down my door." The hallway went silent. For the first time in years, I wasn't the one cornered. I wasn't begging to be heard. I was holding proof. What is that?" Mom's voice cracked. "The truth," I said. "That this apartment you call your son's? It's mine." Dad's mouth opened, but no sound came out. He looked between the papers and me, like reality had just betrayed him. Yesterday, at his birthday dinner, they'd laughed at me in front of everyone. "You're just a tenant, Lena," Mom had sneered. "We let you live there because of your brother. It's his investment." Everyone had joined in, cousins, aunts, even Carter, sipping wine and smirking like I was some charity case. But they had no idea. That night, I'd gone home, sat at my kitchen table, and pulled out every document I'd kept hidden for years. Receipts, payment slips, notarized agreements. I'd changed the locks before midnight. And now, here they stood, ready to break down the door to a home that had never been theirs to begin with. Dad finally found his voice. "You stole from your family." I almost laughed.
"No, Dad."
I just stopped giving. The words landed like glass hitting concrete. Mom's jaw clenched, her crowbar lowering slowly. Carter looked like he'd seen a ghost. I stepped closer, meeting their stares one by one. "You said this was Carter's place?" Funny, because every payment, every wire transfer, every signature has my name on it. Dad's voice rose again, shaky but furious. "We raised you. We paid for everything you have." "Really?" I tilted my head. "You mean the college I worked double shifts to afford? Or the mortgage you forgot to pay when I was 21, and I covered it so you wouldn't lose the house?" The papers fluttered slightly in my hand, the sound of truth.
Thin.
Sharp. Undeniable. Mom's tone hardened, the same way it used to when I was a teenager. "You can't speak to us like this. We're your parents." "I know," I said, my voice steady. "That's why I forgave you long after you stopped deserving it." Behind them, Carter spoke, his voice dripping with arrogance. "You made this about money." "No," I said softly. "You made it about ownership. I just took mine back." The hallway filled with silence. And in that silence, something shifted. I realized I wasn't the scared daughter anymore. I was the woman holding the proof they never thought I'd have. "You came here ready to break down my door," I said finally. "But the only thing that's breaking today is your illusion of control." Then I stepped back inside, shut the door, and turned the lock. For the first time in my life, it felt like mine. I wasn't always the villain in their story. Once, I was the daughter who would have done anything to keep her family together. When Dad lost his job during the pandemic, I was the first one who stepped up. I picked up extra shifts, took freelance work, and even paused my graduate degree. Also, my parents could stay afloat. Mom used to call me our miracle girl. But the miracle didn't last long. Because when Carter, my golden boy brother, got a new business idea, suddenly I became the investor. Just a small loan, Dad said, patting my hand. It's for your brother. He's trying to build a future for the family. A loan. That's what they called it. But the truth? I never saw that money again. When Carter's business failed 6 months later, Mom cried like she had lost her savings. But when I quietly asked about mine, her expression changed. Lena, you shouldn't talk like that. Family doesn't keep score. That line stuck with me for years. Every time I needed help, every time I was exhausted, overworked, and falling apart, that same sentence echoed in my head. Family doesn't keep score. But they did. They just kept it in their favor. When I bought my first apartment, it wasn't luck. It was years of careful saving, working 60-hour weeks, skipping vacations, and eating noodles for dinner just to make the down payment. I thought maybe, finally, I'd done something to make them proud. But the day I showed them the place, Carter laughed. This? You're calling this an apartment? Feels like a shoebox. Mom just smiled faintly. It's cute, honey. At least now your brother has somewhere to stay when he visits the city. I froze. When he visits? What do you mean? Oh, come on, she said, waving a hand. He's family. You can share. I wanted to say no. I should have said no. But back then, I still wanted their approval. So I smiled weakly and said, of course. He can stay as long as he needs. That short stay turned into 2 years. 2 long years of living with Carter's arrogance, his parties, his endless excuses. And somehow, I became the guest in my own home. He'd use my kitchen, my furniture, even my Netflix account, and when friends came over, he introduced the place as his. When I corrected him, he'd laugh and say, relax, Lena. It's all family. But what broke me wasn't the disrespect. It was the betrayal that followed. One afternoon, I came home early and found Carter sitting with our parents in the living room. They were going through my mail. Not just any mail, my mortgage documents. Mom looked up, startled. Oh, Lena. We were just checking something for you. Checking what? I asked. Dad spoke casually, like it was no big deal. We're transferring this property to Carter's name. He's more responsible with finances. I felt my throat tighten. What are you talking about? This is my home. Dad sighed, annoyed. We're your parents. We know what's best for you. You're too emotional about money. Carter leaned back on the couch, smirking.
Don't worry, sis.
I'll make sure it stays in the family. That was the day something inside me snapped. All those years of sacrifice, every time I'd been told to forgive, every time I'd been made to feel like I owed them, it all boiled down to this. They wanted control. Not love. Not family. Control. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat by the window, watching city lights blur through tears, and realized I wasn't part of their family anymore. I was their possession. So, I made a choice. A quiet one. The kind that doesn't make noise, not yet. I started gathering everything. Receipts, messages, voice notes, old transfers, notarized documents. Every trace of proof that tied the apartment to me. I didn't confront them right away. Revenge is patient. It doesn't scream. It waits. And when the right moment came, I'd be ready. 2 weeks after that night, I invited them over for dinner. Just the 4 of us, me, Mom, Dad, and Carter. They thought I was trying to make peace. But peace was never my intention. The day before, I called my friend Amelia, a real estate lawyer. She'd helped me with the mortgage paperwork years ago, and I told her everything. Every transfer, every signature, every manipulation they'd tried to pull. She didn't even hesitate. Lena, what they're doing is illegal. Let me help you expose it, the right way. By the time my family showed up the next night, everything was ready. I'd cooked their favorites, roast chicken, garlic mashed potatoes, Mom's favorite lemon tart. The table was set, candles flickering, soft jazz in the background. Everything looked perfect. When they walked in, Mom smiled like nothing had ever happened. "Oh, sweetie, look at this. It's beautiful." Dad kissed my cheek. "Glad you came to your senses, kiddo." Carter smirked, hanging his coat. "So, this is the peace dinner, huh?" "Finally." I just smiled.
Yeah.
"Something like that." We sat down. I poured them wine, and the small talk started. Fake laughs, empty compliments, all of it. But I could feel my heart pounding under the table. Then, halfway through dinner, I stood up. "There's something I want to show you," I said quietly. Mom looked nervous. "What do you mean?" I placed a small black folder on the table. Inside, copies of every single document they'd tried to touch. The mortgage papers, the payment slips, the property title, and even the transfer attempt Carter made behind my back. Dad frowned. "What is this supposed to be?" "It's proof," I said, steady but cold. "Proof that this apartment is mine. Every cent, every signature, every document. You had no legal right to change it." Carter laughed nervously. "Come on, Lena. You're being dramatic again." That's when I pressed play on my phone. A voice recording filled the room. Carter's voice from 2 days earlier, talking to Mom. "Don't worry, Mom. Once it's in my name, I'll just sell it and move. She won't do anything. She's too scared to lose you." The color drained from their faces. Mom stammered. "You recorded that?" I looked right at her. "I recorded everything." Then I turned to Dad. "You called me emotional about money. But what do you call this? Stealing from your own daughter." He started to say something, but I cut him off. "You think I wouldn't fight back? You think because I stayed quiet, I'd stay weak forever?" Silence. The kind that presses against your chest. Finally, Carter stood up, trying to play it cool. "All right, you've made your point. What do you want? An apology?" I smiled faintly.
No.
"I want you out. All of you." Mom's voice cracked. "You can't mean that. We're family." I laughed, quietly, bitterly. "Family doesn't keep score, right? That's what you used to say." I reached into the folder again and slid a second set of papers across the table. "Those are copies of the police report I filed this morning. And these," I held up my phone, "are the email chains I sent to your bank and my lawyer. Every attempt to change this property's name has been logged as fraudulent activity." Carter's jaw dropped. "You're insane." "Maybe," I said, "but I'm the insane woman who owns this place, legally." Dad tried one last time to intimidate me. "You'll regret this, Lena. You're cutting your own family off." I looked him dead in the eyes.
No.
"I'm cutting off the people who tried to destroy me. If that happens to be my family, that's on you." Then I walked to the door, opened it, and said just one word. "Leave." They didn't move at first. But when I stepped aside, showing them the security camera blinking in the corner, recording everything, they finally understood. Mom grabbed her purse. Carter muttered something under his breath, and Dad glared at me. But they left. For the first time in years, I closed that door knowing I had the power now. As soon as they were gone, I sank onto the floor. I thought I'd feel relief, maybe even joy. But all I felt was peace. A strange, quiet peace I hadn't known in a long time. I didn't need to destroy them. I just needed them to know I couldn't be controlled anymore. For the first few days after that dinner, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Mom called. Dad called. Even Carter left voice messages, begging, threatening, crying, repeating the same line over and over. "You can't do this to your own family." I didn't answer a single one. By the end of the week, the silence had returned. But I knew it wasn't over. Not yet. Because people like them, they don't stop when they lose. They stop when they're exposed. And that moment came faster than I expected. One morning, I was at work when my phone buzzed with a notification from Amelia, my lawyer friend. She'd forwarded me a link with just one line of text. They made the news. I opened it. My heart almost stopped. The headline read, "Local businessman and wife under investigation for financial fraud." I scrolled down and there they were. My parents. Apparently, Carter had been using their accounts to hide money from his failed business deals. When my father tried to help him cover it up, The bank flagged the activity. And thanks to my earlier report, every suspicious transfer was now under review. I didn't have to lift another finger. Their empire of lies was crumbling on its own. A week later, I got a call from Mom. This time, I answered. Her voice was weak, trembling. Lena, your father's lost his job. They froze our accounts. Carter's gone. We don't know where. I didn't say a word. She tried again. Please, can we talk? We made mistakes, I know, but we're still your family. I took a slow breath. Do you remember, I asked softly, when you told me family doesn't keep score?
Silence.
I continued, my voice steady. Well, I stopped keeping score too, but the world didn't. She started to cry. We didn't mean to hurt you. I almost believed her. Almost. But then I remembered the night they tried to take everything from me, and how small they made me feel in my own home. I hope someday you understand what it feels like, I said quietly, to lose everything you thought you controlled. Then I ended the call. For a moment, I stood there in my kitchen, staring out the window. The city lights blinked below, distant and indifferent. That's when it hit me. Revenge doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it just means you finally stop bleeding for people who never cared if you lived or died. 2 months later, I heard Carter had moved out of state, jobless, broke, and living with a friend. My parents sold their house to pay off their debts. They never reached out again. And I didn't celebrate. I didn't post about it or tell anyone the full story. I just started living. I finished my graduate degree. I repainted my apartment. Soft cream walls, golden lighting, plants in every corner. Every corner of that space reminded me that peace is the best revenge. Sometimes, I'd sit by the same window where I once cried and think about that night. The dinner, the folder, the look on their faces when they realized I'd outplayed them. I didn't destroy them. I just let them destroy themselves. One evening, I got a letter in the mail from my mother. It was short. Just one line. You won, Lena. But we lost our family. I folded it carefully, placed it in a drawer, and whispered, No, Mom, you threw it away. Then I closed the drawer and never looked back. That night, I opened my balcony doors and looked at the skyline, free, clean, silent. I finally understood that revenge isn't always about revenge. It's about getting your life back. And in that moment, I realized something. The sweetest revenge is not proving them wrong. It's proving that they never had the power to break you in the first place. It's strange how silence can sound so loud when your life finally belongs to you. It's been 6 months since that morning, the morning my parents stood outside my door with a crowbar and righteous fury. 6 months since they tried to break into the apartment they thought was theirs. 6 months since I learned that peace doesn't always come wrapped in forgiveness. Sometimes it comes wrapped in distance. My name is Lena Grant, and this is what starting over feels like. These days, I wake up before sunrise. The city hums outside my window, a soft reminder that the world keeps moving, even after chaos. I make coffee, water my plants, and sit at my small wooden desk near the balcony. That desk used to hold unpaid bills, guilt, and my family's demands. Now it holds sketches, designs for small businesses I helped through the mentorship program I joined months ago. The same one that once chose my presentation as a success story. Sometimes, I still can't believe it. People look up to me now, the girl who was once told she'd never own anything. And maybe that's what true revenge really is, becoming everything they said you couldn't. Last week, I got an email from a woman named Sandra, a single mother starting her own bakery. She wrote, I heard your story at the mentorship event. You said sometimes we have to lose people to find ourselves. I just wanted to thank you for giving me the courage to try. I stared at her message for a long time. For the first time in years, my tears didn't come from pain. They came from recognition. Because that was exactly what I'd learned. You can't build a new life while you're still holding the ruins of the old one. A few days later, as I was locking up my studio, I ran into Ethan, my neighbor, the one who'd stood by my door that day, holding a slice of pizza and kindness I didn't know I needed. He grinned. You're famous now, he teased. Mentor of the year, huh? I laughed. Please, it's just a title. He raised an eyebrow. Titles don't change who you are, Lena. They just show who you've always been, someone finally taking up space she's earned. And somehow, that hit harder than any praise. Later that evening, I took a walk by the river. The city lights shimmered on the surface, rippling like memory. I thought about my parents, about the last time I saw them outside my apartment, faces full of regret and pride fighting for space. I didn't hate them anymore. That was the shocking part. Hate takes energy, and I was done wasting mine. I didn't forgive them either, not fully. But I understood them now. People who live their whole lives on control can't handle someone who finally takes it back. And maybe the best revenge isn't destruction. It's detachment. The following week, I stood again on that same small stage where my story had first been told. Only this time, I wasn't the student, I was the mentor. I looked out at the crowd, dozens of faces filled with fear, hope, and exhaustion. People just like me, searching for a way out of lives that didn't belong to them. I took a deep breath and began. A year ago, I thought peace meant keeping everyone happy. I thought love meant sacrifice, even when it broke me. But I learned something. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you can't call it family if they only love you when you're useful. The day I changed the locks wasn't the day I shut them out. It was the day I finally let myself in. The audience went quiet. Some smiled. Some cried. I smiled back, not as a victim, but as someone who had survived, rebuilt, and reclaimed. That night, after the event, I drove home with the windows down. The wind smelled like rain and new beginnings. When I reached my apartment, the one I fought to prove was mine, I paused before turning the key. I remembered the sound of the crowbar against the door, that desperate banging that once terrified me. Now, the same door stood quietly, strong, and unshaken. I whispered to myself, "You broke down everything they built to control you, and you built something better." Then I stepped inside. The lights glowed warm. My sketchbook lay open. My phone buzzed with new clients, new beginnings. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel the need to defend my peace. I just lived in it. Because here's the truth I want every person to know. Sometimes revenge doesn't look like payback. It looks like boundaries. It looks like moving forward without explaining yourself. It looks like finally sleeping at night without waiting for an apology that's never coming. That's what I found. Not revenge. Not victory. Just peace, steady, earned, and mine. As I closed my window that night, I caught my reflection in the glass, calm eyes, steady smile. The girl who once cried behind that door was gone. And the woman who replaced her? She wasn't scared of losing family anymore. She'd simply learned that some doors are meant to stay closed. Because on the other side of them is freedom.